amazing episode. Before I get on today's episode, by the way, we still do not have electricity. And yeah, it's still at 2:36 while I'm starting to record the second episode. I don't know what's happening. Okay, I really hope that this is not going to be a thing that is going to disappear for the next 3 days. Because honestly, I need to edit these shows and have them up by Wednesday and Saturday. So, hey, I can't imagine another 3 days of silence. Like, okay, I can play music, but my phone, because I was in a meeting before, it's like the battery drained. And when I put it to charge is when I was watching the movie and it had gotten to only 60 something percent. So right now I had to stop charging it so that I can be able to record. And now it's still at 68%, but the lights have gone off. So if they do not come back tomorrow, I might not be able to use my phone because this phone is old. As I've told you before, the battery does not last too long. And my laptop is fully charged, luckily, but I don't want to edit anything with a laptop like that. The lights have come back. Hope they stay. Yay. Oh my God, hope they stay. They've just come back right now as I'm trying to explain to you the problems that we are going through. So I really hope that they stay. Oh my God, I really hope they do. Because, I don't want to go through 3 days of darkness again and using a candle. My chargeable light, I don't know how to call it, it stopped working. You charge it, it's bright. You store it. When the lights disappear, you go to switch it on, it's not working. So yeah, I just hope that things work out. Okay, God, I'm just tired of holding on and stuff. I really need things to work out. So anyway, today I'm doing the final chapter for Triunfo Del Amor. Pim, 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 pim. Like I so want to be done with this Triunfo Del Amor thing. I don't know why I thought I was going to do it. I think at the beginning I was like, I'm going to talk about it. I was like, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be nini. But as I said last week, I've hated recording this. And I'm going to talk about it next Saturday. So please make sure to be present because I'll just talk to you about how July has been. Because today, as you're watching this, is the 25th of July. And my friends, it is not funny. It has not been good. It has not been okay. And I'll talk to you about it next week. So please make sure to come back. But I think it's the photos from Triunfo Del Amor that has made me have like more than 50 people. Because we were stuck at 40 something for a while. And people have been clicking on Triunfo Del Amor. But when they understand, they hear it's just me talking, it's not the show. Some of them have been good enough to subscribe. Some have just left without a word, which I understand. But come on, please. Come back. Do not just leave immediately. Come support me. Be here. Help a sister out. Watch the entire thing. Comment, like, share, so that you can interact with it. And that way YouTube will see that, people are interacting with my content and they'll share it more. So please, like they'll suggest it more. So please interact with this content. But I'm just so glad that today is the final day. So anyway, today I'm going to be talking about all the extras. I hope that I can do this very quickly because I want to be done. I'll start with Nati and Juanjo. Nati, we introduced to her because Maria Desemparada, when she moves from the orphanage and she finds this little place to live, she needs roommates so that she can be able to make the rent and live comfortably. And so Nati and Linda, they both show up, and she actually wanted to go with just Nati, but Linda was, I think, the first one who had come or something, and so she ended up taking both of them because Donna Milagros, which was a neighbor, Juanjo's mom, was, she was there, and she was like, why don't you just take both of them? So they start living together. As you know, Linda started having an affair with Osvaldo. She ends up being killed by Jimena because she had found some things about Jimena and Guillermo, and so she ends up being killed. And before she dies, while she was having an affair with Osvaldo. Milagros got it to her head that, because her son, Juanjo, liked Linda, and I don't know, he had stolen kisses here and there, they were getting married. And the way they behaved about this entire thing. So, anyway, because I was talking about Nati and Juanjo. Nati meets Juanjo and she falls in love. I do not know why. Because that man, I'm not going to call him ugly, but Nati was way, way beautiful. Like, she did not deserve to end up with somebody like Wanjo, of all people. Like, no, there's this other guy who was Maximiliano's best friend. They were better suited. Like, Nati would have ended up with him and I would have been happy, but not this guy. So, anyway, Wanjo, again, because his mom told him that he was the best or whatever, he set his eyes on Linda first because Linda was so beautiful. And you have to watch the show to understand what I'm talking about Linda, the way she was, the way she carried herself, yo. And Wanjo set his sights so high. And again, he stole kisses from Linda. And Linda was just entertaining him because she loved money and Wanjo was giving her little, but she was not interested in him. She wanted Osvaldo because of his fame and his money and his status and everything. But Wanjo, they start preparing for a wedding. Milagros even takes Linda to go and buy like a wedding gown. And it was an ugly one. I will say that for Linda. I'll defend Linda on this. An ugly freaking dress. Anyway, eventually, Juanjo finds out that Linda is having an affair with Osvaldo because he followed them and found them in this place, like in the theater that Osvaldo was buying with Guillermo, and he confronts them. They end up breaking up, and then he leaves. He goes off without telling anybody where he went. He comes back as a drunkard because he was found by Maximiliano and Maria, you know, with street people, like just homeless people sleeping on the streets and stuff. And so they bring him back. By this time, Linda had already died. So Nati, who is still in love with him, she's always there. And there's this fashion show that was being organized after Casa Victoria, the first one, Bernarda bought it. And so Victoria had to start another one. They were looking for people, people to help them sell their clothes. So they were like, even the middle income and the poor people in the slums, they can help, blah, 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 blah. And so they got the help of Donna Milagros, who was helping them get the other women from the tenement houses to buy their clothes because they were brooding out or something. So anyway, Nati, while they were organizing that, they organized a fashion show at the tenement house. And they fixed Nati up. She always wore glasses, so they removed the glasses. They fixed her hair up. But that hair, it could have been brushed a long time ago. She would have looked better. But she never really did anything with her hair. And so they brushed her hair up and they removed the glasses. They put some makeup on her. And after they do that, she was always beautiful, but they don't get me wrong. But after they do that, that's when this little Wanjo goes like, oh, Nati is beautiful. Oh, she's so pretty. And I'm like, she has always been pretty. You are not on her level in any way. You set your eyes on Linda. Now you're setting your eyes on Nati because now she's beautiful. And I put that in quotes. And you yourself have not changed. You are not the man for either of those women. But anyway, because the heart wants what it wants, Nati had set her eyes on him, and so when he proposed that they go out, she accepted. They start dating, blah blah blah. They end up getting married, and she gets pregnant during their honeymoon. Like, it was instant. By the time they're coming back from their honeymoon, she was already pregnant. So anyway, she was there for Maria all the time. As I said during last week's episode, I hated that Maria went with Alonso and did not even tell Nati or the Father Juan Pablo that she was going away with him. But anyway, she came back and they were like sisters. They loved each other. Maria was there for her. Nati was there for Maria. And so they end up getting married and she's pregnant. She gives birth at some point towards the end. And so she lives happily ever after with Wanjo. I hated that part so much because she was so beautiful, as I said, and I do not know why. And even in the comment section in the show, everybody kept asking why they let Nati end up with Wanjo. Because it just they did not suit. Because at first they were kissing with Maximiliano's best friend. I keep forgetting to check his name. I want to say Gabriel, but I feel like it's not Gabriel. And I know it's not Fernando, but I feel like it's Gabriel or something. I don't know. I might be mistaken, but yeah. Who, by the way, ended up with this receptionist from Casa Victoria, because there's a point where he asked her to come and live at her home, because when Casa Victoria went down, the first one, they were not being paid much in the second one, so people sacrificed, blah blah blah. She ended up losing her lease, and so he offered to live with her, and so she started. I think she had even feelings before, but she started developing feelings for him. Eventually, he does the same after he realized that he cannot be with Fair, and so they also end up together. So, yeah, that is Nati and the stories that involved her. Donna Milagros and Don Napoleon. These ones were way older. As I said, Milagros is Juanjo's mom. She's elderly. Don Napo is also elderly. They're firemen. And they've been doing this thing where they know Milagros is in love with Don Napo, but they've been playing games. So Don Napo keeps saying that I'm young, I'm young. He's not ready to settle down and stuff. And so through the entire show, it's just them going back and forth. He used to eat at her place. There's even after the first tenement burnt down, they ended up living in the same house but different rooms and stuff. But Don Napo insisted that, he was still young. He wasn't ready for a relationship. And then another guy shows up, starts dating Milagros, although Milagros knows that she's in love with Napo. Napo starts feeling jealous about the entire thing. He's always upset. He even cried a couple of times for Milagros. But anyway, they eventually ended up together, which was good. Milagros had Maria Desamparada's son when he was kidnapped from her house, because she left the baby in the house, going to take magazines for the other women to show them, I don't know what, for the fashion show that was being organized or something. And she left the baby alone in the house with the door open. I'm just going to be out for a little while. Let me take this to these women. It was not an emergency. But anyway, that happened. And so she was guilty and stuff. When Juanjo was supposedly dead, because after he disappeared, after he found out what Linda had done, they thought that he was dead, because they found some body that was, on the ground somewhere, and they thought it was him. He had his fireman uniform and stuff. And so they thought it was him. They mourned him, they buried him, they were crying. But that time Linda was not dead yet, because she was there at the funeral crying and stuff. But then she dies just before he comes back. And so yeah, that's the moment that you could like really tell what an amazing actress Carmen Salinas was, because she's late now. She passed on, I don't know, I'm not sure when, but she's late now. So may she continue resting in peace. But she was an amazing actress. The way she mourned for her son, you could tell that, she's good. But yeah, so she ends up with Napoleon at the end, Don Napoleon at the end, Don Napo at the end, which was good. And I love that for them. There's these friends that Oscar and Antonietta, they were both working at Casa Victoria. Antonietta was Victoria's best friend, and she stuck by her through everything. There's this moment when Victoria first found out that she thought that she had found her daughter. There was this other Maria, and then she had asked her to leave to stay at Antonietta's home. But because she was used to the nightlife, blah blah blah, she was a hoe, and so she ran away, because she thought that these people wanted to, lock her up and stuff like that. And so she ran away. When Victoria comes to see her, I'm going to see my daughter. I'm so happy I found my daughter after so many years, blah blah blah. She finds that she's escaped, and Antonietta tells her that. She went to take her shower so that she can come and, I don't know, go for breakfast or something. And she found that she was not there. Victoria actually slaps Antonietta. And Antonietta does not retaliate or do anything, because she understands her grief. She's a mom who has lost her daughter again. I was like, what? You slap me like that, I'll slap you back. Because what the hell? I've always been there for you. Your daughter, your supposed daughter, ran away. She's an adult. She ran away. And you dare slap me because of what? She was always on her side, defending her. There are a number of times where I'll agree. She used to tell her, like, especially when it came to Maria de Samparada, like, you are wrong for doing that. You are wrong for saying that. You are wrong for treating her like that. But Victoria never listened because the world always had to revolve around Victoria and her problems. She didn't care about anybody else's problems. And Antonietta and Oscar were always favoring her. And there's this part where Oscar, like, when Maria was fired from Casa Victoria and she was looking for work, Victoria actually used Oscar to go to call those other places or to monitor her whereabouts to see where she had gone to work or to look for work so that she could ask those people to fire Maria. And Oscar is the one who did that. He's the one who told those people to fire Maria. I didn't understand whether he was a lawyer or if he was just, I don't know, working in finance at the company. There are moments they called him a lawyer when they needed something, a lawyer, because Osvaldo needed a lawyer at some point, Victoria needed a lawyer at some point, Maximiliano needed a lawyer at some point, and they always called Oscar. But Oscar was not a lawyer, I think. Or maybe he was, I don't know. I thought he was working in finance in the company, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so anyway, at first Oscar was in love with Victoria, and he sort of hated Osvaldo. And when Osvaldo cheated, he thought that he had his chance, but Victoria, of course, did not want him. And then, but Antonietta was always in love with Oscar. She hadn't been married all those years because she was holding out hope on Oscar. But then eventually, after Oscar finally realizes that, Victoria will never want me, he starts seeing Antonietta in a different light. They start going out, they date, blah, blah, blah. They also end up getting married thanks to Pipino. Pipino is somebody who worked at the fashion house as well. He was the designer, the main designer. And he was also very, very funny. He loved love. And I think he was gay, but at the time the show was being shot, I don't know, it wasn't something that people could just say or something like that. I do not understand why they just didn't say that, yeah, Pipino is not into women, because he was never seen dating any woman. But he was always there for Victoria, he was always there for Antonietta, for Oscar, for Max, for Maria. He was always there for everybody else. But the guy that I thought was going to be with him was a rival designer for Casa Bernarda when Bernarda took over Casa Victoria, and I've forgotten his name. And I don't think that I wrote it down, but yeah, him, because they kept fighting and stuff. But I love his song, like Maya he, Maya ha, all the time that he came on screen, because I told you every person had their own theme song. So his was that one. But yeah, Pipino was amazing. He was amazing. And yeah, so he's the one who planned Oscar and Antonietta's wedding, which can be seen as cute. But on the other hand, I'm also like, if this thing doesn't work out in the end, it will be understandable. Like in Lo que la vida me robó, when what was his name? Oh my God, I've forgotten. One of the lieutenants, his wedding was a surprise to him. And then they ended up like just frustrating each other with the wife. When she got pregnant, he started even cheating, falling in love with another woman and stuff. Like, if it's not him who proposed, if it's not him and you who set up the date for your wedding and organized it because you wanted it may not always end well. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they would still be together if the show was like, if you could see like 10 years from then. But yeah, I love what Pepino did, but I'm also like, that is a recipe for disaster. Let them be the ones to organize their own wedding. But anyway, it was a good thing that he did. Leonela Montenegro, that is Maximiliano's mom. I've told you a bit of her story from Osvaldo's point of view. So they were married, and then she was having an affair. She was a famous actress, but she was an alcoholic as well. During one of her fits where she was drunk, she ends up killing her lover, and then she ends up being sent to jail where she was pregnant with Maximiliano. She gives birth in jail. Osvaldo takes Max and he divorces her and leaves her where she was because they were in a foreign country. He leaves her there and comes back to Mexico. He meets Victoria and they get married. Years later, Leonela comes back and she tries to kill Osvaldo as the first thing that she did. She shoots him, he ends up in the hospital and he survived. I told you, Osvaldo survived a lot of attempts on his life. And so Leonela is still a drunkard. Like, she was a mess. And Dr. Heriberto, who was a doctor for everybody. He was a psychologist, a physicist, he was everything. This man tried to talk to her because his story was that he had a wife and children, and the wife died of cancer. And so they buried her, and then they were supposed to go and see the kids' grandparents because they wanted to see the children immediately after they buried their mom, which was weird because they should have been the one to come to them. So Heriberto was driving him and his children, the two children, to go and see their grandparents when a drunk driver hit their car and the children died on the spot. Imagine you've just buried your wife and then some drunkard drives into you and you end up losing your children as well. Like your family is gone like that. Yo, like I pitied Heriberto for that. But so because of that story, he never drank again. And he was trying to tell Leonela about those things and, trying to convince her to get rid of her alcoholic problems, to go to AA. Is that what it's called? Alcoholics Anonymous, yeah, AA. And so he was like a driving force in her recovery. She was a menace. Maximiliano had problems because of her. And there's this thing where I've never liked in movies. This person has never been a part of your life, and then you meet them because of their biological mom, because they're your biological dad, and you're just supposed to be like, yeah, mom, dad, and you have to be there for them no matter how hectic they are to you, because though they're my mom, they're my dad. And so Maximiliano was stressed. The number of times he wanted to just give up on her, but everybody's like, but she's your mom. And he himself was like, but she's my mom. I just can't. He even put her in this apartment that he was paying for and was like, nobody's allowed to come in and out of this house, of this room. And I'm like, why? She's a grown woman. Like, if you want to quit any vice, it has to come from you. You want to quit smoking, you have to decide. You want to quit drinking, it has to be you. You want to quit taking drugs, it has to be you. Being forced to do it, it only makes you more rebellious. And so that was Leonela Montenegro. But eventually she got better. She and Victoria became sort of friends because they were both Maximiliano's moms. She and Maria had, I don't know if they had like a relationship at the end, but I feel like during that picnic they had towards the end that she was there too. Yeah. But she was also like involved with Guillermo, and she was also involved with Bernard at some point. Like anybody that was against Victoria or Osvaldo or Max was in cahoots with Bernarda at some point. And so, yeah, but eventually she changes and she gets better. There's Jimena's mom, who was there for Jimena all through, taking care of her, encouraging her in her stupidity. But the moment she realized that her daughter had murdered Linda, like you could see in her behavior, every once in a while she could change, but she loved money. She had loved the high life and stuff. She ends up working at Casa Victoria and ends up, knocking heads with Pepino because she was designing. Every design that Pepino was coming up with, she would say like, no, 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 that's not good. That is not from this century. That is blah, blah, blah. And she kept designing nonsense. Then she ends up working for Casa Bernarda. When everybody left Casa Bernarda because Bernarda had taken over Casa Victoria and went to start the other Casa Victoria, she did not go with them. She remained because of the money. She ended up being in cahoots with Bernarda as well. But then eventually, I don't think we were shown, or she ended up in jail or something. I'm not so sure. I don't know where she ended up, by the way. I've forgotten how she ended up, but I don't even remember if we were shown her reaction to Jimena dying. I don't know. Okay, honestly, I'm sorry, but go and watch the show. I told you this before. It's on Novelas Kingdom on YouTube. Go and watch it, Triunfo Del Amor, and then maybe you'll get to know what happened to her. That is Roxana. The last person I'm going to talk about is Fausto. Fausto was, as I told you, Bernarda burnt down a family in the beginning. And I think I spoke about Fausto at that during the second episode rather, where I was talking about Bernarda and Father Juan Pablo. But I don't know that if I told you how it ended for him. So Fausto was the kid in the house, and a part of his face was burnt during that fire. But then the aunt took over and raised him. That is the mom's sister. And so later on, when Bernarda kills her house manager, the one that had stayed with her for the longest, Fausto randomly appears from nowhere and offers to take care of the body, and he burns it in Bernarda's fireplace. And so later on, it is revealed that Fausto is that kid, and he was falling in love with, actually, he was already in love with Maria, because Maria was always kind to him and she never, looked away when she saw the scar on his face and stuff. And so he fell in love with her and he vowed to take care of her. Everything that Bernarda tried to do to Maria or Max, he was always sort of the person who saved them from her or whoever was coming for them, because he helped Max, who was almost run over by a train because they pushed his car together with the baby. This is Jimena's plan with Bernarda, and him and his baby almost died, you know, on a train track. He saved them. He saved Maria from being shot. He saved them when, like, so many times. And so eventually he decides to confess. He's the one who told Father Juan Pablo about what his mother had done. And so eventually he decides to confess because he wanted to become a priest. And the bishop or whoever it was, he told him that he had to confess his sins to the police, not just to God. And, his penance was to serve time, I think, or, get whatever the police will tell him. And then after that, they will see if after he served his punishment, then he can become a priest like he wanted. So he ended up being a priest. That aunt of his stayed at Bernarda's house. She was there as the house manager for a while. And then when Casa Bernarda started, she was Bernarda's secretary as well. But she had a plan. As I told you during Bernarda's story, she tried to kill her a couple of times, poisoned her, lit her house on fire at some point, lit her cow on fire at some point. Like, she was chaotic. But at the end, she wrote a letter to say that she's the one who had done everything that Fausto had been arrested for, because he went to confess. And when Bernarda was arrested, they found out that, the fingerprints at the fireplace were only Fausto's. And because he's the one who burnt her body, then he's the one who got arrested for her murder and not Bernarda. So later on, the aunt wrote a letter, anonymously, saying that she's the one who did it, or I think she said she's the one or somebody else, I don't know. And then she went to Bernarda's to try and kill her. So when Bernarda survived, somehow she found her again in the house. So I don't know if Bernarda called her back or what happened, or she had gone to gloat, and tried to kill her again. I don't know what happened, but Bernarda ended up killing her. And so that's how she didn't end up in jail and Fausto was released. So yeah, his story was a little bit sad when you look at it, but yeah, he ended up being a priest and he was very happy about it. He lost his parents, he lost his aunt, all of that thanks to Bernarda. But yeah, Fausto was very resilient and he helped everybody in this show, especially Maximiliano and Maria. So yeah, he was a fan favorite, I think. And I liked him as well, by the way. Even though he was in love with Maria, he didn't force things like, what Alonso was doing. So I really, really liked him. And yeah, that is the end of this. I don't think there's anybody else that I've not spoken about unless they were just extra cast, which I'm not going to do that anymore. As I said, I want this series to end and I'm so glad that today is the end of it. So yeah, from next week, we're going back to normal programming and I'm so glad, I'm so delighted about it. I know these past few weeks, the shows have been like noisy. I've tried to change it up. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening, but yeah, I'm going to try and do better. Actually, from next week as well, I'm not sure. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I hope that I get proper Wi-Fi, so that I can be able to change the track that plays at the beginning of the podcast and at the end. I'll have to change it because YouTube has been telling me that if ever I start monetizing my channel, those episodes will not be monetized, or they have problems being monetized, because as much as the music is allowed by the owner to play on YouTube, it's still like I'll have to pay them something and I'll get something. So they'll make something from everything that I make. And I've been told that, yeah, YouTube does not pay that much for Kenyan creators or African creators or something. So like if I'm being paid $1 for what somebody in the States or wherever in Europe is being paid $100, so you understand, like from that $1 in Alipwa, what am I supposed to give those people? So yeah, I'll have to look for something that is on YouTube, that is YouTube approved by YouTube, because they have like their soundtracks as well. So I'm going to look for that, and I might have to change it. So I was looking for some, and I wanted something that rhymed this one, but like it's just hard getting the right song, because that one I had it the first time and I loved it and I've been using it for all this time, but I might have to change it. So if you tune in one of these fine days, maybe next week but one, and you hear that the song is different, that is why I have to change it, because of in case ever I'm monetized, I'll not be able to get my potential earnings. So yeah, remember that I'm still baking and I'm still cooking. So if you want me to do those things for you, make your orders on my Instagram and on my TikTok, Mimi's Musings Podcast. And then come back here. Remember to please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, so that whenever I upload something new, you're going to be amongst the first people to come and watch. Okay? Bye bye.